and welcome to my channel, where today I am talking about more of my time getting to play Red Dead Redemption 2. This time I took a bunch of your questions from Twitter and Instagram, and I'm going to do my best to answer every single question that you have. Keep in mind, I got to play 3 hours of the game, which doesn't feel like a lot. Really, it felt like 30 minutes. Alrighty, I'm gonna go through to answer these questions in no particular order, starting with, can you swim now? Yes, but you can't dive. Did you notice any frame rate drops or graphical issues? I noticed absolutely no frame rate drops, none at all. But there were a few graphical issues, not many. The game is gorgeous. Birds seemed to appear and disappear out of nowhere. Birds specifically in the sky that seem to be used as like set dressing. Sometimes would just show up and sometimes would just fade away. But Rockstar did mention this build was about 3 weeks old, so it was not a final version of the game that I played. I'm also just generally not a fan of the way that hair looked. I know that it's hard for games to get hair right, but horses' tails particularly sort of like fizzled out at the end. It looked like the spray paint tool in Microsoft Paint. Not that bad. Nowhere near that bad, I promise, but it just sort of, I don't know, didn't look like individual hairs, it just fades oddly. Everything else looks great, especially the density. Environments are so full of detail and things, and I don't understand how there aren't loading screens. It's magic. I guess this is just what happens when Rockstar Games actually makes a next-gen title, because remember, GTA 5 is technically a 360 PS3 era game that was just ported. It's bonkers. How do the L2 interactions work? So you talk to NPCs by holding L2 and looking at them. It doesn't put you in a cutscene, doesn't lock you in. You can still freely walk around while talking to them. You can drink coffee. You can buy some whiskey at a bar, and you can still walk around and talk to people in the bar like in real life. You have options to greet people. You can rob them immediately. Rob from them. You can escalate and de-escalate conversations, which means be aggressive or be kinder. And even if you have fully escalated a conversation and that you've gotten very, very aggressive with someone, you won't necessarily know how that individual person will respond because it depends on that individual person. One thing I do want to note, though, is that if you are rude to someone and you kill them or whatever, NPCs have relationships. If you kill someone and they have a cousin somewhere who can feasibly figure out that you killed them, they will come after you, or some of them will. Say it's an aggressive family and someone in town saw you do it and they also live in town, they might come and try to fight you because you killed their cousin. That is a detail that I find insane. I did also ask Rockstar if NPCs would ever repeat themselves. They said no. So you can also interact with items with L2. I don't know if that's everything, but it seems to be most things. What is the map size? I don't know. I expect that it's pretty large. They didn't mention. There is fast travel. You can fast travel via trains. You can also hijack trains, so you don't have to go to a train station, buy a ticket, and get on a train. But I did ask what the edges were, if they're invisible walls or mountains. Rockstar would not tell me the answer to that. So I imagine it's the biggest Rockstar map to date. Can you give us any melee details? So melee feels like, well, in first person it feels very unique, actually. Almost like, maybe like a little bit like Dying Light, a little. It's similar to GTA, but it's more choreographed and more smartly animated. You can also do stealth takedowns. Kill cams vary depending on how honorable you are. Like it might focus more on how you've killed someone if you are dishonorable. On the topic of fighting NPCs, I mentioned this earlier, but the bounty system is really cool. If someone witnesses you get in a fight, they can report it unless you manage to intercept them before they go to the sheriff. NPCs will react differently to you intercepting them. Some of them will be susceptible, some of them won't. Some of them might not even tell the sheriff depending on who they are. And the town, even if you've paid off your bounty, the town that you're in or the people around you will still remember whatever you have done and hold it against you or like you for it, maybe. How's the gunplay? To me, it feels like GTA combined with Max Payne. Just with way more detail. There's aim assist, but it's not too naggy. The revolver has a really unique firing mode, which is, it's like once to cock it and then once to shoot, which you can use to intimidate people. So you could like pull it back, hold it at their head, just to like, you know, tell them that you mean business, and that is individually animated. There is a shoot from the hip mode, where if you just like tap R2 rapidly, you'll shoot from the hip, which is great for like things like ambushes. You can shoot into the sky, to just intimidate people, to get attention, or to like alert an animal or something like that. You can blow off people's heads and limbs and all that good stuff. If you tap L1 as well, Arthur will put his gun away with a flourish, so he'll like spin it and then put it in his holster. It's really cute. And every time that he interacts with the stuff that's on his body, he actually interacts with it. So like it doesn't clip through. It actually like fits in. You know, he actually puts it, he actually does it. It's just Arthur's Deadeye also develops. I think we probably had it on level 1 or 2. But as it develops, Rockstar said he'll be able to target critical areas like an enemy's vital organs, which is going to be super useful for getting clean kills while hunting. And we will get into hunting, but give me a bit. Someone asks, is cleaning your guns annoying? I don't think so. There is weapon degradation, and that is that your guns get dirty. If they get wet, you have to clean them, so you'll have to be aware if you're in water. But cleaning them is pretty simple. You can do it at any point in time. I imagine you'll be able to do it while talking to people. So say you're sitting around the campfire and you're talking to the NPCs or your gang members, you'll be able to clean your gun. You can sit on pretty much anything as well. And the weapons, basically, they don't break. They just the performance lessens. And it didn't seem like it was happening very quickly because we didn't have to clean it at all in my playthrough. I just chose to at one point. But basically, it'll just keep them at peak performance. If they get dirty, they'll start jamming. Maybe reload times will be slower and things like that, I think. What is the weapon wheel like? It's really similar to GTA 5, but a little more realistic about what you can carry. You can have 2 one-handed guns and 2 two-handed weapons, which doesn't include knives, like throwing knives or like Molotovs. You can leave additional items in your saddlebags, which is very new. You could leave like a bow and arrow on the side of your horse. So if you're hunting and you want to, you got your guns on Arthur, you get off the horse, you grab your bow and arrow off of the horse, and then you put it back. So it's just a lot more realistic about what you can carry on you at any given time. Will animals attack your horse? I didn't see that, but I suspect that they will. So there was a point where I was standing relatively still, we were doing dressage, I think, and the horse freaked out because Rockstar thinks that it's because the horse saw a rattlesnake. So it was panicking about something. So you're still in control majority of the time, but yes, I would imagine that animals will attack your horse. They're more likely to attack if they're hungry, but you don't necessarily know if they're hungry or not. Also, for some reason, you can wear animal carcasses as a hat, because why not, I guess. Wanted to talk about some more horse stuff. If you lose your horse, it'll go back to your camp, but as long as it's not too far away, you can whistle to call it. If you lose your horse, you can ask a passerby for a ride if you're stuck without it. You can also use someone else's horse, and I believe that you can have 2 active horses at once. But I don't think you can just have a full arsenal of horses. But you can visit a stable to customize your horse. You can switch out stirrups, blankets, saddles, reins, saddle horns, all that stuff. You can also change the style of its mane and tail, so you can cut those. I'm not sure if they grow like Arthur's does, but I would say yes. But you can also like braid and dreadlock them and all that stuff. And yes, if your horse dies, it's gone. You can't just get it back like you can in GTA 5 with an insurance claim. It is gone. So if you've put all that time into bonding with your horse and leveling up that bond so it's not as skittish if it sees something, or is not as skittish in gunfights, or, bond will make it follow you. But on that note, you can tell your horse to flee if you're in a scary situation in order to save its life. So you can make your horse run away so that it won't die, which I think is very cool. How overwhelming did it feel? Fairly, but not in a off-putting way. There's a lot to do, but that a lot is more about the exploration. Like Rockstar kept asking us if they kept being like, what do you want to do now? When we're just like hanging out in a store looking at things. And I think it's the fact that I can see myself getting distracted constantly because everything is so interesting, which is maybe daunting in a way that it's like, I don't know how quickly I'm going to want to play through this game because there's so much to see. Like maybe I could put hundreds of hours into this game because I'm just interested, because I could talk to every NPC, and every time it will be, not necessarily every time it will be different, but depending on the context, it'll be different. So I don't feel like it's overwhelming in a way that's padding like most modern video games where they just add a bunch of arbitrary bullshit for you to do. In Red Dead Redemption 2, it could be overwhelming because everything you have to do is interesting, and because you are going to consistently be interested by everything around you. And that is what sets it apart from virtually every other open world game. I've seen people saying this is like next level open world gaming, and I fully agree. It's not fetch quests or hidden things or, the same repeated instance just in different areas. It really is that the whole world just happens to be interesting. And not in a way that's video gamey, not in a way that it feeds into your quest objective necessarily. It's just interesting. I hope that it takes me a long time to finish because I really do want to just get stuck in this world. That's the thing I'm most excited about. Is the HUD... Is the thing where when you turn the HUD off, the NPCs give you more directions real? No. It seems like maybe people who are playing with the HUD off just felt like they noticed it more, that NPCs give you directions when their HUD was off. But no, they will always say the same stuff to you no matter what. What don't you like about it? Very little. There might be too much horseback segments, maybe? Like, I feel like you're going to be doing a lot of riding in this game, and you don't necessarily have that much to do while you're riding. You're just traveling between the map? I'm not sure yet. And I thought that some of the stars looked too big. Like, I guess if they get meant to be galaxies, some of them just look like big old white blobs in the sky. That's it. Everything else was great. How much of a role does music play? A pretty significant role. It builds depending on the circumstance, so it might be like kind of light if you're just about to start into combat but you're still in stealth mode or something, and music that plays will vary depending on your alignment, which I think is very cool. The score was beautiful as well. The sound design in general was fantastic. This is gonna win so many different categories of Game of the Year awards, you guys. It's bonkers. Is there crafting and what is it like? Yes, you can craft ammo and tools and healing items and all that good stuff. You collect herbs around the world. Ew, I just said herbs. Herbs around the world, I mean. You can craft at a campfire, including it just random campfires that you might find around the world. And I think you can craft in other places as well. I imagine you can just craft generally in the wild, but maybe you get more options at campfires, not fully sure. But yes, there is crafting and also just a ton of customization of everything ever. Everything is customizable. You can engrave your guns custom, and I imagine you can put quite a lot of work into them. And I think the idea behind that is to give you a sense of attachment to everything that you have. Like, you can name your horse, you have a bond with your horse, so you feel attached to your horse. So if that horse dies, you're gonna feel sad. I think the same applies to your weapons. You can engrave them, you make them yours, you could name them, you can, think of them fondly. And I think the idea there is maybe because your inventory is smaller. Obviously, that's not a mechanic, that's a style choice to make the game realistic. But again, maybe that's there so that you will feel more attached to everything in the game. And I think that goes with their mission statement of everything should feel important. Like, every NPC you talk to will be interesting to talk to. Same applies to your items. What's hunting like? I didn't do a ton of hunting, but it sounds fairly standard to me. You can take a thing that prevents your scent as a hunter, because animals can track you depending on where the wind is. So if you're upwind from them, they will be able to smell you. It's recommended that you hunt with, say, a bow and arrow rather than with a shotgun, because the way that you hunt will alter the quality of the pelt that you get. So if you get a headshot, for example, on a deer with a bow and arrow, that's going to do a lot less damage to a pelt than a shotgun would. So the pelt will be more valuable, you can make more stuff out of it, or better quality stuff out of it. You can also leave an animal carcass somewhere to draw other animals in. Like, if you leave a dead animal, it will start to decompose, and then other animals will be able to smell that and come to you. What's cooking like? Arthur can cook. Cooking will give you stat boosts. You'll gain weight if you eat too much. You'll lose weight and become gaunt if you don't eat enough. There are just like a bunch of survival elements, but they're all light. It's not a hardcore survival game. It's not going to be too punishing. You'll look and act tired if you don't sleep. You'll have less stamina if you're carrying something. You will be affected by climates in terms of stamina as well, but not die like you do in Breath of the Wild. And all of that stuff is tracked by things called cores, which just come up above your minimap. So if that's your minimap, they're like little dots above it. And they have there's an outline on the outside that tells you how full that thing is, and then on the inside it tells you its level of regeneration. Other things that I wanted to note, gang members will loot if you don't loot, so they can steal your loot, so you kind of need to be aware of that. And that is it from me today, everyone. Thank you all so much for your questions. Let me know if you have any more below. Like I said earlier, I should be getting more time with the game soon, so I'll be able to answer even better. Some of that will be embargoed, but I'll get it to you as soon as I can. Alrighty, that is it for all of the Red Dead Redemption. I love you all so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.